right, you guys, let's go ahead and get into it. We are in chapter 6 in Espanol. We are so far, chapter 5 was about to get steamy. Like steamy, but they both helped. We had restraint, okay? So let's see what happens in chapter 6. Let's do it, okay? All right. Chapter 6. Creeping down the road, just 3 or 4 houses from her home, she can see that same car parked at the curb of her and her husband's house. For weeks, she has a suspicion of her husband cheating with another woman. For weeks, she watched while he had been lying to her about where he was going or where he went. Usually, he would go to her place or meet up somewhere else. Never did she think he'd have the audacity to bring the slut to their home. She parks her car at the curb of the neighbor's house. She momentarily sits in the driver's seat, running different scenarios through her mind about what to do. It hurts knowing the man of her dreams has been running around on her, cheating on her with some bimbo. She can still remember their days on the beach and nights on their sailboat. She had been married to this man for 2 years, and for 2 years she thought he'd be the only one for her. Thinking they had a great marriage, the talk of children and enlarging their family has always been a topic of discussion in the last 6 months. She brushes the long, straight, strawberry blonde hair out of her face before reaching into the center console of her car and grabbing her gun. A black colored Glock 19. Ooh, she about to set it off. She had bought this gun months ago, and on occasions, she would go to the firing range for practice. When growing up, her dad always warned her to carry protection, something she would never do in fear of hurting or killing someone. She never would do in fear of hurting or killing someone. But she is thanking God that months ago, she finally gave in and went out and got herself a gun. Her husband was never too partial about her getting one. Maybe it's because the asshole knows I may shoot his cheating ass, she thought. She places the gun into her purse before stepping out of her car and going through her yard and onto the front porch, where she quietly and carefully opens the front door to avoid being heard. Her husband thinks she's at work and does not want him to know she is sneaking in to catch him in the act of cheating, even while she tiptoes up the stairs, careful not to make any sounds. Ascending the stairs, she could hear the 2 of them in their bedroom. Ooh. She knew he was giving it. Ooh. He may be a liar and a cheater, but the son of a knows how to work. Ooh. Right. He may be a liar and he may be a cheater, but one thing for sure, he knows a thing or two. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. All right. So I can imagine what she's feeling right now. She thought while creeping her way ever so closer to the bedroom door that was not closed all the way. Before walking into the room, she stops at the door and peeks through the opening of the door, exposing the 10 I was like, whoa. Exposing the 10 inches or more of a spaced gap, get your minds out the gutter, from being closed. She could indeed see her husband. She knew who she was. She was her husband's best friend's wife, Veronica. She's a beautiful woman in her 30s with long brown hair, usually in a bouffant style. She is of normal height and slightly over the weight of her height, but not by much. yet her weight makes her look more stunning. When she peeks through, she can see that her husband is, ooh, and the butterfly. The butterfly. I'm trying to imagine. Okay. They weren't on the bed, but beside it. And when she walks into the room, Veronica is the first to see her, and she gives off a quick, startling scream. When the husband spots his wife after hearing Veronica scream, he throws her to the bed beside them. Ooh. Honey, I thought you were at work. Finding what to say or how to explain his way out of this situation, she looks over at a frightened Veronica sitting with her knees upward to cover her nudity from the wife who stands in the doorway with this evil look plastered all over her face. I can't blame you, Veronica. Once you've had, ooh, not 3 times a day. Am I right? She would not respond to her. She would barely look at her. She just sat there on the bed sobbing, realizing she had big time, knowing how crazy of a woman she can be. And when his wife shouted for her to answer, she quickly answered, yes, but that's not what she was wanting to say. Fear made the word fall from her trembling lips, and when she made eye contact with his wife, she could see the crazed look in her eyes. I'm sorry, Veronica cried out. What are you sorry about? The fact that you two have been each other for weeks behind my back? Or the fact that I caught you in the act and your fun time has ended? Honey, listen, her husband says, taking a few steps forward. I know you ain't got nothing to say. He's about to say something else, but his wife interrupts him quickly. I wouldn't take another step if I were you, she warned her husband while pulling her gun out of her purse and pointing it at him. Her husband was frightened beyond words. He knew his wife had a crazy side to her, but he didn't think she would take it to this level. Veronica sobs more with her eyes laid upon the Glock 19 his wife is holding in her hand. She just knew she was going to be shot and probably killed. Honey, please, lower the gun. Let's talk about this. Sure, let's talk. After you are done. Ooh. He was frightened and nervous. I bet he was. And so was Veronica, who he was cheating with. Veronica slid over the bed towards him. Oh! Not wanting to do this anymore because of the bizarre-like attitude his wife had. I like how Veronica's scared, but she didn't question it. She was just like, oh, you want for us to do it again? Oh no. You know, she's not putting up much of a fight here. You know what I mean? She says like, okay, she's like, you know, keep on. She's like, oh, the agony, I'm so scared. I almost died, I'm so scared. All these things, right? Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, Veronica sobs more with her eyes laid upon the Glock 19 his wife is holding in her hand. She just knew she was going to be shot and probably killed. Okay, I read that part. Okay. He was frightened and nervous, and so was Veronica. Veronica slid over, here we go. Veronica slid over the bed towards him, spreading her, not wanting to do this anymore. She could have fooled me because of the bizarre-like attitude. Ooh! She could see the look of fear on Veronica's face. She had that look about her as though she had never done. Ooh! What's the matter, Veronica? you've never had before? She asked with sarcasm in her voice. Okay, now Veronica may actually, she may be like, oh, it was interesting at first. Like, not interesting, but she was like, if I must, okay, this is the one. But yeah, this is probably, might be where she draws the line. Whew. Veronica tried to hold back her fear, and she tried not to sob, shaking her head no, with fear in her eyes. Yeah, it's pretty scary with the size he's got penetrated. Oh, but hey, you'll get used to it. Honey, this is crazy. Let's talk about this. She took several steps closer to her husband, pointing the gun towards his head. She stood back far enough that he could not reach her while she demanded him to shut up and do as she said. Okay. All right, here we go. He reaches out and grabs Veronica's legs and pulls her to the end of the bed where he's standing. He reaches for his, trying to get it, after what is going down, it is hard to get it going again, and he knew it could piss her off even more. What's the matter? You can't get it? He turns and faces his wife, sweat running down his forehead and to his eyes. Fear was taking hold of him. His dark brown hair was wet with sweat, and shame was written all over his face. I can't do it, he mumbles with much shame in his voice. Not just shame because he could not get again, but the shame that he was caught and told to perform such an act by his wife, wielding a gun from across the room. Well, you have become completely useless, she said before pointing the gun towards his. Ooh! She really shot this man. See, I'm always like optimistic, and I'm like, oh, she's just bluffing. You know, she's just talking. You know, she's angry. You know what I mean? She's not actually gonna. You know, it's probably not even loaded. The bullet penetrates him right between the legs. It connected. Ooh! Blood was pouring from what used to be his manhood, and most of it had fallen into a bloody mess on the floor at his feet. Oh my gosh. He fell to the floor screaming in agony. I bet. Agony. Seeing that most of his was no longer there. Beyond power of speech. Her aim had much precision. Well, she had been to the gun range. Stop your whining. If I let you live, you can still have sex. Many men can. Ooh. You'll have replaced it there. Ooh. Wait. So she's saying for him to basically, that it's gone, and basically you'll have instead. Ooh. Roger that. That's a copy. Okay, roger that. All right. She looks over and sees Veronica hysterically screaming before she points the gun at her and pulls the trigger again. Ooh, wait a minute, quick draw, McGraw. Hold on. Only this time the bullet hits her between the eyes. God, hold on. I'm thinking she gonna, shoot some. She watches her lifeless, naked body fall over the bed. Damn, I'm an outstanding shooter, she boasts with a grin on her face. She looked over at her husband on the floor, bleeding out and hysterical. Oh, honey, you did this to yourself. I kind of like her though, because You did this to yourself, she said, aiming the gun at his face. He was screaming in agony while begging her to not kill him. She ignores his pleas and fires another shot from her gun. The bullet penetrates him in the chest, what you say, near his heart, and he lays there bleeding out on the floor while she stands over him with this sinister-looking grin across her face. She did not come to play. I am once again thinking optimistic, like, oh, this, well, you know what? Maybe this is in her imagination. Maybe all this is what she imagined. Maybe on the next sentence is gonna be like, oh, she woke up from this dream and it never happened. And she's gonna, confront him and just argue. Okay, let's see. Brady stops typing on his computer. Okay, so this is a part. Wait, is it this kid? Okay, so this is a part of Brady's story. I think this is the same one that had the couple on the beach at first, the guy with the long hair or the wet hair and the girl with the hot body. But I feel like, okay, so maybe they've gotten married and 2 years later he's cheating. Which is trash on that guy's part, because like, dude, you got married to this woman. You're in love with her. Like, why? Well, I guess he wasn't in love with her if he's doing all of that. All right, let's see. Brady stops typing on his computer and slides away on his chair, monitoring the office he is in. When he comes to work on his writing, he sits in his chair contemplating where to go next with his idea while having Emily on his brain. Knowing that they have been on several dates now, they have made out several times, and yet neither one of them will make the move, and he sits in his chair, contemplating what to do next with this scene in his book. He stares around the room with his eyes when his eyes land on his bookshelf. He sees his book series, and just like before, when he sees the books on the shelf, it's as though he can hear the characters from inside the book. Now that is interesting, because anybody who writes can attest to that. Like, if you write books, like, just seeing the physical book, like, all the scenes run straight to your head and you can see all the scenes, and it's like watching a movie, almost. Let's see. He can see glimpses of what he created in that book series and hear the main character and his lover making love in his mind, just as he had written in the first book. All right, I feel like this scene's about to happen with Stan the man. Okay, let's see. So, what will I do with you next, Stan? Brady mumbles while looking over at the books on his shelf, interrupted by a voice responding to him from inside the room. You know what you must do, Brady? The voice said. Brady turned and saw what looked like himself standing in the doorway of his room. He was decked out in nice clothing and completely identical to Brady. They want me to write about you. They want me to write about you again, Stan. They want me to continue with your journey into a fourth installment. Is that something you want, Brady? Is that something you want? Brady asked. The man named Stan, the character Brady created in his successful book series, walks into the room. Wait, so Stan looks just like him. Okay, so this actually works out better because Stan is him. So the knife or the sword actually works out. Okay, because if he looks identical, then that is him. Okay, well, next time, baby. Next book. All right. And I find that interesting too, because I feel like people who write books, a lot of times, like, we put ourselves into these characters or versions of ourselves into the characters. And that's why we identify it more, and that's what helps it gel more. So let's see. right, let's see here. Stan, the character Brady created in his successful book series, walks into the room. He picks the first book off the shelf. So much success came to us from this book, and more followed with the next two, Stan said, placing the first book back onto the shelf and grabbing the second book of the series. I'm stunned it continued with this one, Cheryl. Well, I didn't quite feel the vibe with her. Nothing like the feeling I got with Tanya. He really seemed to love this Tanya. Cindy didn't deliver either. They weren't Tanya. They didn't like Tanya. They didn't cry like Tanya, cook like her. They just didn't have that it factor, Stan explained, placing the second book back onto the shelf while picking up the third series novel. Well, don't blame me. That's what I had to work with during those two books. Please don't blame me. They walked out on us afterward, Brady said with a hiss. Stan places away the third book and focuses his attention on Brady, who remains seated in his chair. But they are what you brought into the story. Not only that, but you had to create me out of your image as though you were God or something, Stan said, now leaning against the bookshelf with his eyes fixed on Brady. Stan looked identical to Brady. He wore a nice black suit with his hair fixed nicely and a nice close-shaved face. His voice matched Brady's too. It was an alter ego. I said it. I called it. If Brady had one. You know me. When I write, I get way into it. Yeah, and that's what's going to become a problem. You see, you are writing your main male characters to look too much like you, to be you in almost every way. If you aren't careful, readers will grow up with suspicion. Creating your male characters to resemble you will eventually become your undoing. The shell will crack, and you'll fuck up, Stan warned. Listen here. I haven't done yet, have I? Brady said. Stan shakes his head in disbelief. Not yet, but soon you will, I'm afraid. You've created me as your main character to look, be, and sound like you in the most successful book series you've ever written. In 3 other almost seemingly knockoff romances of The Novelist and The Lake House, you've created characters to identify with you, only they are lighter written characters. The last book you've written is another look-alike character of you. When does it end? You can't keep creating this image of yourself in these books. It will eventually transpire into your real world. I think I see a foreshadow. But I don't think that Brady's gonna become the killer though. Surely not. Surely not. Surely not. I'm calling it. I'm calling it now. Yes. Let's see. I'm the writer here, not you. I know what I am doing, and my writings have not and will not pour into my real life. And just before Brady was about to say something else, his cell phone sitting on his desk next to his computer rang. He turned around while still in his chair. He picked up the phone and saw it was Samuel calling. I have to answer this, he said, turning around to face Stan, but Stan was no longer there. He looks around the room for a second or two before answering the call. Hey Samuel, what can I do for you? Hey there, Brady. I haven't heard from you in a while. I thought I'd see how your book is coming along. Okay. Almost done. I'm putting in the last chapter now. Good. I hope it turns out great for you. So, have you decided yet on whether or not you will work on the 4th book of the series? He just brushed past that. Look, give Brady the credit he deserves for this other book he's writing. Yes, it's not as popular as The Novelist, but he still deserves something. Now, he's been doing this for over a decade. So, he's done, I believe he said 15 books. I think this will be the 16th. Give this man his credit, okay? You just brushing past that to this series. Brady sighed briefly, knowing he had already discussed this with Samuel. Yes, as I answered before, I will work on the 4th book. Great, a 4th bestseller on its way. I can't wait. So that means you must have someone in your life, Samuel now asked, knowing that in the last 3 books Brady wrote during that series, he was dating someone each time. Yes, there is someone new in my life. We've been dating and taking it slow, and I truly feel she's the one for me. You silly bastard. You silly bastard. You and your superstitious ways. He said, well, that's the way it is. And as soon as she is more comfortable with me, we'll head to the lake house. But it may take several months before we go. Samuel's not gonna wait that long for you to get started. Samuel's not gonna wait that long. Figure we could spend the summer here, go to the lake house in the fall, and spend the winter there until spring. Brady explained. Hey, whatever floats your boat, my friend. Just be sure to put more spins on that book like you did the previous 3. Samuel said before hanging up the call with Brady. Brady places his phone down and looks over at the bookshelf. More spins than you could imagine, he mumbles with a grin. All right, so, ooh, goodness sakes. Okay, so me, being the person that I am, I like to foreshadow. I like to try to see the future. So I feel like what's gonna happen is we're gonna think that Brady is gonna let the stuff he's writing carry over into his real life, because he makes he makes a lot of his characters to be him. But what I think is that she's going to be the one that's the actual crazy person. And he's going to end up being one of the victims that he writes in his books. I could be wrong. I could be. But we shall see. All right, so join me next time for chapter 7. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me everything y'all feel in the comments. And I can't wait to see y'all next time. Peace.